Welcome to the Champ We Are United podcast, the number
Woohoo!
one football comic-based podcast. Like a tiger hunting its prey, finding the right buddy for a striker with the speed to shoot a bullet from a cannon, to score with a scorcher from a hot shot at the crunch time, making the crowd roar at the action from Roy the Rovers, providing the exclusive scoop to the Match of the Day magazine, to create a spike in interest of the Football Picture Story Monthly so it can emerge as the victor, proving that this podcast is the champ. I'm sure you
Yes.
will agree the team make more than a valiant effort in every episode and will
Oh,
continue
good.
to do so in this episode 104, Your Perfect Match.
Woohoo!
Wow.
Sorry, what
Yes,
was that?
that's good stuff.
I am
Oh,
the Tangential One and I am your host. And I think you can already hear some noises in the background. So without further ado, please let me introduce you to the team joining me tonight. Representing the Roy the Rovers comic, it is Mute-Button Matt.
wow. Good evening. Hello there. You are known as Tangential One. I think you should be known as Tangential One after that introduction. Oh, yeah. Well, good to be here. Yeah,
Thank you,
nice one.
thank you. And then from Gary Lineker's Hot Shot, it's none other than the Podfather, Gull.
I love it. Is that my new nickname?
I think it's got a stick. Right? You said you liked it. I'm
I
not sure
did.
that
I
should
did.
be a theme of the pod, but seeing as I've grabbed a hold of my nickname and I like it, I should allow you to as well. There, Gull.
I would like to keep a side nickname, please, just in case. The man with 1,000 voices, most of them dead. But I like the
Yes.
Podfather too. Hello.
So,
Hello.
yeah.
No, I was saying hello to everyone.
Hello from the Podfather. Well, we're a small team tonight. Unfortunately, obviously, we've got some missing. Our bullet grandad, gangster Surty, Brinsden Bygone Berrigan, the Football Picture Story Monthly specialist, Luscious Locks Ridders, and our champ, the voice of reason, Simo. All those should be set to return for 105. So we look forward to that. But I think, as you know, I like to keep a brisk pace. So let's go on to the running order for this episode. As always, we will have the social media, which will be brought to us by Mute-Button.
Hello.
Then we've got a little feature called 21 Titles by me, the Tangential One. Then
Oh,
we've got
Christ.
Not
the foot.
Christ.
No, the Tangential One, but you know. The Football Commando purchase by the Podfather. And then we're going to try a little collector's corner if we've got time from all of us. And then a return of a feature. This is your comic book life, Mervyn Wallace. And I think, Mute, we were going to do this in two parts, but I think because of absentees and a bit of a change in the running order, we're going to go for it all tonight, I believe.
We're going to go for it. We're going to go for it.
We're going to
Tangential
go
One.
for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so once we've completed Mervyn Wallace's comic book life, we shall tell you about our social medias, have a little bit of a reflective on this episode and say our goodbyes. So,
May I
Excellent.
just mention something?
of course you may.
Well, the studio is pretty empty this week. I'm not used to it being this empty, so I've invited Dot in to actually have a chair for the
Okay.
first in 104 episodes. Welcome, Dot. You're not even outside the door. You're already in the studio. How are you today? Oh, I said, Dorothy Gordon here. I've got my own seat. Oh, hello, everybody. Oh, I'm going to join in tonight.
Brilliant. Is she doing a
Brilliant.
section? Is she doing a section?
Uh,
Is she?
No, I'll probably have a couple of fags.
Excellent.
Well, it's good to see that the Podfather is on form with his sidekick Dot, because I'm sure we'll be hearing a little bit more from him as I hand over to Mute-Button for the social media feedback, often known as Melvin's Musings.
Thank you very much. Oh, Tangential One. Tangential One, I should say. Okay, yeah, so the feedback from last episode 103, which was a great episode with we had a special guest, didn't we? Ian
Yes.
Golden,
Yeah.
friend of the show. Hi,
Oh,
Ian. So we got some great feedback on that show. So first of all, from the Roy the Rovers comic 40 Years On Facebook page, we had, so Richie Brown said, yes, Josh T and Hedgehog Jones. Obviously a bit of a fan there. And then we have from the Melster himself, is there a theme tune for the Melster himself?
Yeah,
What?
absolutely. Of course, it wouldn't be a Melvin's Muse without a theme tune, would it?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Is
Right,
Dot
here we
going to
go.
do it?
I'm about to, no, do I say, no, I can't sing to save my life. There's too many facts, you see, too many facts. Yeah, ready?
Yes.
Yep.
Melvin's musings, baby. Melvin's musings. Oh.
Very
Wow.
good. Very good. He keeps us guessing, see?
He does. He
I like
does.
that. I like that. I like that.
I must
Okay.
take out that was bloody shit.
Oh, God.
Can you tell Dot about the swear jar, please?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, right. So from the Melser himself, Trevor Melvin. Champ We Are United podcast, episode 103 is pure gold. Having settled their silver spoon sweetener differences, the football comic book world's very own golden couple, Gull and Dot, put the kettle back on and cracked open a box of Tetley Gold Brew for the pod special guest, Mr. Ian Golden. As the team lineup was announced, Tangent Paul, the podcast's golden child, was a notable absentee. Rumours that the Tangential One had travelled to the Himalayas to find a rare copy of Tiger are yet to be confirmed. Football comic book Bad Boy, Bygone Berrigan, was however available for selection and worth his weight in gold as he provided the team with some Palo Certi streetwise know-how. Ridders, the retro, was he here? Ridders, the retro reviewer with the Midas touch, was also welcomed into the side for the second consecutive pod.
All right, lads.
Stop that.
That actually was freakingly good.
Is he here as well?
Yeah.
And if you do an impression of Simo, you just got to be quiet. With a Wi-Fi signal akin to gold dust in Simo's voice of reason operational room, the task of leading the line and introducing Riverton United historian Ian Golden therefore fell to the golden boy of UK football comic podcasting, Mute-Button Matt. Golden boy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a new one. I
Yeah,
love that.
he likes that. Yeah.
It was fantasy football all the way for fans of We Are United. From Champ to Football Picture Story Monthly, via Victor, the golden age of Riverton was charted in a unique timeline created by the Golden One. Simo and Ridders, both yellow gold season ticket holders at the mill, marvelled at the comic book Stato's golden vision, whilst Dot's very own Golden Balls, Gull, was at one point rendered utterly speechless. Silence is golden, as Mute-Button Matt might say. In other news, Bygone Berrigan is understood to be in advanced talks to bring the DC Thompson Golden Boys, Graham Strachan, Martin Lindsay, and Bill Graham to Champ Towers for a very special fixture. Watch this space. Without doubt, a 24-carat matchup. Keep it coming, lads. Many thanks for the great escape. And he mentions everybody, and he says, of course, the United Oracle, Ian Golden. And he says, P.S. The lifestyle advice for this episode was brought to us courtesy of the long-haired lover from the blue half of Liverpool. Don't leave your football comic libraries with your ex-missus. Wise words, mate. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah,
Superb.
That did crack me up when I was listening to that.
Yeah, well, we're doing an important public service, aren't we? Really, to if anybody out there has got any ex-missuses, and there probably are some, don't leave your football comic libraries with her.
Oh, by the way, I can't leave Simo out on the impression, can I? So,
yeah, go on.
That's the problem. Is it Simo or is it Norman Collier?
A bit of both.
Brilliant
What
stuff.
are you talking about, Brett? Gull? I called it by your real name. Oh, I say.
Right, moving on.
Since there's only three of us, we're padding it out a little bit, aren't we?
Moving on to the Champ We Are United Picture Story Monthly Facebook page. We have feedback from Adrian Lord.
Way.
Everybody in the house, Lord. Everybody in the house of Lord. One house, one Lord. Everybody in the house of Lord.
See, do you know what? He old Mewster, he's tinkering with the Mewsters, but he can't move away from the classic House of Lord.
No.
It's just that's embedded.
When you hit gold, you got to stay with it, haven't you? Really?
Definitely, as we did in the last pod.
Yeah, very true, very true. So, from Adrian, he says Ian's input was incredibly thorough. Well done on that research. The United timeline was good to hear. I can't believe he didn't want to do my theme tune. I might go on strike now. Well,
yes,
Adrian, you know what? We've had a word with him. let's not go into it because HR were involved. But suffice to say, you've heard the theme tune, so I think we know. That written warning
normally,
definitely was worthwhile.
normally I say I quit at least twice an episode, but I was nearly fired for, I had to do his theme tune. Otherwise, I would have been out on my ear, me and Dot. Oh, I say, I don't know that.
Dear, good to hear from you, Adrian. Glad you enjoyed it. Richard Woods, friend of the show.
Yes,
Richard Woods.
friend of the show.
He hasn't got a theme tune yet, has he? Has he got a theme
Eagle
tune?
Rich.
Eagle Rich.
I must make one up. Sorry, I will.
Okay, no, that's all right. That's all right. Richard said, just managed to listen to the whole episode. Great listen and great work, Ian Golden. Might have a go at knocking up your Trick or Smart story when I get some time. Also, Martin Lindsay, absolute legend, player and manager of Stainford City. So thank you very much, Richard. And then there's somebody here called Paul Richardson. Here's some feedback.
Who
Is
would
it
that
worth?
be?
Is it worth reading it out?
Probably
It goes
not.
on for about
Probably not.
50 pages. Never gets to the point.
No, exactly.
He says, wow, what a pod to miss. I can't believe it. Kudos to Ian Golden. What an amazing anthology. Blah, 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 blah. Sorting out the timeline of United World. I have to confess, I've already listened 3 times. And yes, I agree with Mute-Button Matt. Just as well I wasn't on the pod as we'd still be recording. I was smiling along and in utter amazement how Ian has managed to weave the books together and controversially actually remove some books. Brought back some great memories of reading the Football Picture Story monthly series and how I got far too upset on occasions, like when Tug Wilson was back on the United bench when I knew he should be managing Oldcastle. 3 exclamation marks. Yes, we can pick holes in the continuity, but at the time it was just a joy to be reading a United story. But like Ian, I always wanted it to be consistent and understand how it fitted together. That always was the thing that I thought Champ did so well, especially with the opponents' timelines. Better than Were the Rovers was one of the main reasons I fell in love with United and Champ. Well before I challenged the Mewster for the longest feedback and go off on one of my tangents, a pod that brings us a legend that was Billy Meredith, arguably the first superstar of the footballing world, time travel that nearly sees Gull disappear, only to be dragged back as his arm began to disappear, and to find out that Terry Evans' year in Italy was just a dream sequence was pure pod gold. Great performance from the team. P.S. Martin Lindsay also appeared in Football Picture Story Monthly number 10, The Challenge. See previous pod for a fantastic Ridders retro review on that one.
Yeah.
God, Jesus Christ, you do go
I
on, don't you?
tell you what, I don't know what. It sounded like a great review to me, whoever that Richardson bloke is.
Good night, everybody.
Thank God he doesn't come on. You can imagine if he presented, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it?
You'd never go. The pod would never finish.
And finally, from YouTube, we have friend of the show, Aussie Lee.
Hey!
What you want to think? Oh God, here we go.
Feedback from a land down under.
I know that. I was just building it up.
No,
Come on then.
Pause on the podcast, can you?
Well, that still sounds South African.
We're great. What with Mute sounding American when he does it, and now you sounding South African. We're brilliant on the old Australian.
Lee, can you move to South Africa, please? It would just help us with the accents.
Yeah, Lee, if you could just relocate, and we'll be able to sort it out in future pods for you.
Nelson Mandela.
And there we go, Trevor McDonald, brilliant. So yeah, Lee says really.
Trevor McDonald.
Lee says, really great episode, everyone. As someone who had never even heard of nor read Champ We Are United, not sure if it was sold in Australia or South Africa, it was good hearing Ian give a history of the different storylines and characters and try to make sense of the chronology. It's fun trying to make all the contradictory plot lines fit together somehow. Perhaps he can straighten out the unit dating controversy from Doctor Who while he's at it.
Oh,
it's a Doctor Who reference.
Well, and he is a big fan, isn't he? He mentioned that in the last. I mean, I'm like you, Mute, but Ian did mention he's a Doctor Who fan, and so that'll be interesting.
New series starts Saturday.
So there we go. Off on a tangent. So all the best, Lee. Thank you very much, Lee. Cheers. And that is the feedback, from this week.
Brilliant. Wow. Amazing. Great stuff.
So thanks,
I mean,
thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And I've got to say, yeah, I genuinely was devastated to miss that last pod, especially listening back, Ian. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And do you know what? I think I've actually listened 5 times, and a bit like Ridders, I've got to listen again, and I need to pause it so that I can get all my United versus Football Picture Story monthlies in the right order. And the sad thing is, I now also want to buy duplicate copies, because what I loved was when Ian said about, but there was one page in one of the books. He said, "Now, if you go to page 47,
46,
it's
yeah,
like,
no,
oh, yeah, I gotta
47,
rip this out and put it together." But yeah, that was so. If you haven't, listeners, friends, all friends of the shows, please listen to 104, because it is a fantastic pod. It's definitely.
Well, this is 104, so
sorry, 103. Crikey,
no,
103.
that's quite a time travel clever thing. Hello, this is a great one. I
Listen
really
to
enjoyed
104
listening
as
to
well.
this one.
Yeah.
Did you say
I've got, do you know what it is? Because the guys aren't here and I've said they're coming back for 105, it's just completely put me in a pickle.
I've no idea what he's going on about.
No. Thank you, Mute. Brilliant section as always, and thanks again everybody, all the friends of the show. You are all friends of the show, listeners.
Yep.
And we really appreciate all your feedback, and please keep it coming. As I said, it is much appreciated. Right.
Absolutely. I'd like to just back that up. Well, as always, great musings. And I'll say, do you know what? I'm usually in the green room, so I've never seen him do it in person. I'll say.
Dot in awe
Dorothy.
of the feedback. Right, so we've got a little feature, because, as I say, we've had a little change in the running order, unfortunately. Some of the guys, I don't want to say too much, but Sumo's got a nasty case of the Wi-Fi-itis, I believe it is. So he did actually have a feature, but we've had to drop that, unfortunately, for this episode. And I've put in something called 21 titles. And I'm going to be hopefully a short one, but in my intro, I just thought we'd kind of maybe go through. And did you recognise the 21 titles that were mentioned? So, of course, the first one was Tiger. And, of course, that's a comic which we all know is the birthplace of Roy the Rovers. And the original's Billy's Boots, which is actually a story not of that we would recognise from Fred Baker and the reboot, but so just to mention there. Then the next title that was mentioned was Buddy, which I'm sure Gull was Limp Along Leslie, featured in Buddy. And then, of course, we mentioned Striker, Pete Nash's Wonderful World of Nick Jarvis. Next up, number 4, was the comic Speed. And for those of you that don't remember, you had the fastest footballer on earth, Mickey Jordan, who would later go on to join Kings Bay and the Marx Brothers story. Mm-hmm. Then Shoot magazine, where Roy the Rovers stories were printed in 1994 as part of the Rocky Race story after Roy's helicopter crash. Then 6, Bullet, which was a comic that I only recently heard of myself, thanks to Bygone Berrigan. And that brought us Twisty Lunyon, and of course Kid Cox. Then I also mentioned Cannon. The 7th one was Cannon, which was a story from the Match magazine in the 1980s, and the hero there being Harry Cannon, who was the manager of Stanton Town. And what was interesting in that story is that they actually played real teams, and they were in, I think, the 2nd division, but I remember them playing Everton in the Cup as well. Then I've kind of played around a little bit then. The 8th one to be mentioned was Score. And, of course, we've got Jack of United, that'd be Jack Chesley of the Chesley Brothers, and other stories like Cannonball Craig. Then the 9th comic that I mentioned was Scorcher, Bobby of the Blues, Billy's Boots, the reboot, which would then be...
It's the reboot of Billy's Boots, yeah.
Yeah. Hot Shot Hamish wasn't in the 1st edition of Scorcher, but that's where it was launched. And, of course, the shout-out to a friend of the show, Ozzy Lee, Kangaroo Kid, was also in Scorcher. And then the 10th title that I mentioned was Hot Shot, Playmaker, Andy Steele, The Magic Man for Gull, and Family Fortune, to mention some. And then I mentioned Crunch. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a comic, again, that I've only recently come across. I don't know too much about this, but there were a couple of football stories in the run of Crunch. The Kaiser Experiment, where a Dr. Kaiser performs experiments on a football team to make them unbeatable. And another story, Striker from Nowhere. one that I've got to look into myself, and could be something that will feature on the show because I have no information other than its title at the moment. This is where I was a little bit clever because the 12th title was Raw. Of course, it would be Score and Raw, but I played with it and I said Raw. And then, of course, we've got Jimmy of City, which is Jimmy Chesley of the Chesley Brothers, and, of course, Nipper. And we had a wonderful comic book life of Nipper. Nipper Lawrence was in the Raw part of Score and Raw. Then the 13th title that I mentioned was the infamous Action. I mean, we all, for those of you that are aware of Action, of course, it got banned. But people might forget that there were a couple of football stories in there. Play Till You Drop was the first football story that appeared in the first edition of Action. But later on, Look Out for Lefty, who I think is quite a well-known character.
Yeah.
Then the 14th title I mentioned, well, of course, was Roy of the Rovers. So, I mean, a whole plethora of stories. But the Hard Man, Marx Brothers, Durrell's Palace, Safest Hands in Soccer, Goalkeeper, and Mighty Mouse, to name but a few. The 15th title, Scoop, which is, as far as I'm aware, is where we saw John Stark, match winner for hire. And, of course, a story that I would really love to. I've only read snippets of this and I want to read it properly. This Goalie's Got Guts.
Yes.
And that's a great story. And of course, Cosmo Kent also got his own story in Scoop long before the Football Picture Story Monthlies. The 16th title that I mentioned was Match of the Day magazine, which of course was the last incarnation of the original Roy of the Rovers story, but it started back in 1997. Then the 17th title was Spike. That introduced us to Iron Bar, the story Iron Bar, of course, Charlie Iron Bar, who would go on to become the United goalkeeper. The 18th title, Football Picture Story Monthly, which of course was the continuation of We Are United, John Stark, Klein and Powell, Kit Carson, the Football Scout, the High Rise Rovers, and Twisty. And of course, as you know, 418 fantastic editions with a variety of different stories there. The 19th title, and I should have given Mute actually a bit of a heads up on this one, because the 19th title was Victor. And I've just put the goals of Jimmy Grant, Gorgeous Gus, and of course Stark also appeared in Victor, and We Are United moved to Victor. But I know you've done some research, and there is a hell of a lot of football
116
stories.
football stories.
There you go. 116 football stories that actually appeared in the.
And I will do a section on that one day.
Victor. Well, at one time we are going to review all of those 119 stories.
We are.
That's how we intend to go on.
In one show.
That is definitely going to be the 4-hour-long special show. Right, we're getting there. The 20th title that I mentioned was Champ, which of course is how our podcast started, and of course that features the United verse and the We Are United story. And then the 21st comic title that I mentioned in that intro was The Valiant. And as far as I'm aware, there are 2 football stories, possibly more, because again, come on to this possibly a little bit later in Collector's Corner, but a couple of stories we read and they couldn't break Brady. Now, again, I played with it a little bit. I did say at the end, your perfect match. And of course, Match Magazine featured the canon story. So I doubled up. But 21 comic titles there of the comics that featured football stories in. So I don't know if you managed to get all of those in the intro, if you spotted them all. If you did, well done. But here's a little thing to all of our listeners. And we mentioned the feedback. Tell us about more. What did we miss? I'm sure there are some titles out there that we've missed, although I'm not sure that my bank balance and comic collection really wants to know, because in the last 12 months, I'd never heard of Bullet or Crunch, but I'm happy to say I've managed to collect every edition of those fantastic comics. So that was a little filler. I thought it was a bit of fun there to go through.
Very good. I felt like at one point I thought we were going through the 12 days of Christmas.
But do you know what I find interesting? I don't just quickly get your thoughts on this, guys. But as we're always saying, we're 104 episodes in here, and that's just 21 titles. How many stories? You just said there was 119 football stories in Victor alone. I think we're good for another 100 episodes and more with content, right?
Yeah, I'm just imagining all of the listeners putting their heads in their hands thinking,
Jeez. Oh no.
God. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. It's obviously the famous ones. We know the famous ones, don't we? But so many football comic stories out there and characters and wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
we literally could go on forever
we
if we
could.
if we did
Yeah.
do them all. But it's amazing. Yes, and that's great intro. Great intro. Very clever. Very clever.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought we'd just put that together. So a little feature there didn't last too long, hopefully. So the Podfather, have
What
you
about
been
him?
warming up in the background? Are you ready
Yeah, I'm ready.
to discuss your football commando purchase?
Well, it's weird because this one is just a few minutes as well because I didn't plan to have a section this time. But yeah, Commando edition number 5,835, which is
Sorry,
incredible.
Gull,
Wow.
can I just interrupt there? I mean, can you just confirm? I've heard a vicious rumor. Is it true that there's 4 copies every month and 2 are reprints and 2 are new stories? Is that correct?
I believe so, but
Okay.
listeners will correct me if I'm wrong because I don't really know too much about Commando. I've
Really?
not collected too many.
Oh wow. That's fascinating.
But what was that?
Fascinating. That's yeah. Good.
No, I haven't finished my section yet.
No, it's just that whole 2 new ones and
Yeah.
2
Two
reprints. It's just
reprints.
haven't heard that before. It's just...
I might be completely wrong, but yeah. But maybe one of the listeners can give us some feedback and just let us know. But yeah, 60-page, 63-page action story each time. And this one is a special one because it's a football one, a football war story.
Wow.
It's got a football player on the front kicking a ball. It's called Leagues Apart. And in behind the football player is, fighting in a war. I'm sure that you'll be able to see the picture. I'll send it to Mute-Button. And so it'll be a very short one, but it's really interesting because the first 15 pages, I haven't read it yet.
Right.
I've only just purchased it, so I'll review it in a future episode. But then again, I've said I'll come back to stuff about 60 times, so don't hold your breath. But the first 16 pages are all football, which is fantastic. But the interesting thing for me is I'm going to make myself look really foolish now. I wonder if this is like a true story. I mean, some of the Commando stories are true stories, aren't they?
Yeah,
Again,
definitely. Yeah.
Let me know in the feedback. But it's a 3rd division game going for the title with real teams. It's Barnsley versus Doncaster Rovers.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Which is really, really fascinating. And first 16 pages is football, and then you get more into the war action. It does end up with football at the end again. But I know that our great friend Eagle Richard Woods is interested in this too. I hope he's purchased his copy too, because for me, of course, this isn't a football picture story monthly, but
no,
it's good enough for me. I'm putting.
You're rebranding it, are you, Gull?
Yeah, I'm putting it with my football picture story monthly collection because it's a football one, and I can't say whether there's been a football one before, of course, but how interesting that they've gone with that angle there.
Yeah,
really interesting. Go on.
No, I'm really intrigued. Actually, it would be. I don't know if because I don't get the Commandos and I haven't read them, but I don't know if there are 4 words in there or not. But I know, like on the covers of Victor's, it used to be a true story. From the Second World War or a conflict.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, on the front covers. Yeah.
But like you say, the fact that it mentions real life football teams does make me think that maybe the character. So it might be when you've read it, let's get the character name and maybe we can do a bit of research as well.
Yeah, I'll. Do you know what? What I'll do is I'll do that as my section next time. I'll go through it and supply some pictures because the artwork is really, really good, and in the front it does have a story by Jim and Dave Turner, art by Paolo Ongaro, and cover by Simon Pritchard. But yeah, just mentioning the names there. So yeah, I will go through it. It is interesting. yeah, I will do a section on that next time.
So just obviously the reason you might have seen me kind of grow to my shelves, and as you were talking, did remind me, not a story that I remember. I couldn't really tell you too much about it, but I knew that I'd pulled out a section at some point. And in Roy the Rovers, there was in actual fact a story that was called The Team That Went to War.
Yes, yeah. It's about
Uh-huh.
1985,
So that
86,
was,
right?
yeah, that's right.
85.
Yeah. In that kind of, I don't know if you recognise, that era that we all remember, when the quality of the paper wasn't so great, and it changed. But yeah, very, very much reminded me of that. So I mean, this is I think actually the last edition of the story that I'd pulled out when originally I'd got rid of my comics, unfortunately, that broke my heart. But yeah, so I just found it interesting though, as you were talking, Gull, that it might be a first for Commando, certainly the first I've heard of it, but the genres have crossed in the past. It has been something that's been done, but really interesting.
But also quite interesting, and I should leave this until the actual review, but inside the first page, there's an advert. And recently, Commando have been doing like anthologies, A4 size, which you can see like in W.H. Smith's. And they're advertising volume 1 of Commando Presents the Sci-Fi Files. So science fiction Commando stories. I don't even know if they're ever, they're war comics, aren't they? So I'll look into all of that more. I will also, if by the next podcast, the next 4 have come out, I'll purchase all 4, do my research, see if it says this was originally printed in whatever, and then obviously get the answer if they're 2 reprints and 2 new ones. So yeah, looking forward to that. But it really, I mean, it's $2.99. That's the price of things nowadays. It's just the way it is. But it's such nice quality, and much more on that in my section in the future. But I'm glad you enjoyed that, Paul.
No, definitely. I mean, I found it really interesting, and I must admit, I think I might go back actually to revisit this story from Roy the Rovers, a team that went to war. I'm just quickly looking at it. I think it was Barchester United, and again, like a lot of these things, it's quite poignant because it's the last episode, and the stadium announcer.
I think that was written by Tom Tully. So who actually did?
That's of course. This is in the days they didn't put on the.
It's Mike Weston, I think, was the artist, and I think it was August 85 to December 85. So it's only relatively short, and I think it was originally in battle. Because I just found it. I did some research on that previously, but I haven't read it either. At the time, I was probably just flicking through and reading. Wasn't reading all the stories in.
At
the time.
I mean, I don't know what it is. It's really weird, and I kind of sort of stood. But there was always 2 stories in one of the Rovers for some reason that I didn't read. And then the funny thing is, I've mentioned this before because we've done features. Funnily enough, the 2 that I always remember not reading was The Safest Hands in Soccer and The Footballer Who Wouldn't Stay Dead. And I started actually reading both of them and getting into them just at the point when they were then dropped. So, interesting. Great stuff, Gull. Well, sorry.
Go on, carry on, because Dot just wants to mention something in a second. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say great stuff, and we look forward to hearing from you maybe in the next episode or in a future episode once you've read it and maybe done a little bit of research, and we can give a bit of the backstory to that edition of Come On. But just before you hand over the microphone to Dot, I know she's getting excited being in the studio with us for a change.
Who would
just exactly. Just sorry, remind us what's the actual edition number for that Commando?
Amazingly, it's 5,835. It's astonishing.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a massive. I'm on a Commando Facebook group. I might actually put a post on there once we.
What, you're a Commando? I can't believe. How have I known you this long? And what?
For anybody that's thinking of tuning in on YouTube, I can confirm, thankfully, once again,
that's why you're in camouflage.
Camera is not working.
That's why it's in camouflage. He has to go incognito, doesn't he?
You will not see an adult warning as Gull is Commando. Whether it's just for this pod or not,
bloody hell.
One day there will be a revelation.
Oh dear. Dot, please put some pants on him.
Oh, I say, Dorothy Gordon here. Well, as I'm in the studio, I've actually got a section for you. It only lasts a couple of minutes, but there's a bit of a juxtaposition for me because I used to be in
Sorry,
East
hold on a
End.
second. Did Dot just say juxtaposition?
He did indeed.
Carry on.
You make me laugh now. A juxtaposition for me. Because I was in EastEnders and that's set in Walford. Now, what the bloody hell is Walford Rovers doing in Roy the Rovers? That's what I want to know. Oh, I say, Dorothy Gordon. That's the end of my section.
Thanks, Dot.
Brilliant. And do you know, I don't know whether it was just a coincidence, but Walford were always known as a London-based team in Roy the Rovers as well, I believe.
Yeah, but as we know, Walford predates EastEnders and Walford.
Oh yeah, completely.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't shock me though, as we've said this before. I bet you one of the writers that decided, possibly when they did EastEnders was probably a Roy the Rovers fan and found it funny. I'll
And
use that as
that's
a
why
fictitious term.
the football team
Yeah.
is Walford Town and not Walford Rovers. Maybe there's a bit of a copyright issue there on the old Walford Rovers, but then why wouldn't there be on Walford? But then, anyway. Right, stop going on about it.
Fantastic. So I believe that concludes section 3 of this pod there.
Amazing.
Fantastic, Commando.
I can't wait for the Melchesters' feedback on that. Blimey.
Yeah, I'll leave that to the Melchester to do. So we said that we might have a little collector's corner if we have time. So obviously, Gull, you've recently purchased that Commando, and I love that inspired, no doubt, by Ian Gordon, friend of the show, to shoehorn that Commando into your Football Picture Story monthly collection. Have you had any other recent purchases or anything that's caught your eye that you might want to mention for Collector's Corner? Or has it been a quiet time on that front, Goal?
No.
No, it hasn't been a quiet time.
I think if he's gone Commando, I think something's caught Dot's eye anyway. But yes, I think.
You know what? You know what I think it is? My most recent purchase was the massive amount of 2000 AD for £90 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I have to have a bit of a break, but yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Mute.
You say, we said we do Collector's Corner if we had time. If we had time, we're only half hour in.
Well, in all fairness, we've got a massive comic book life coming up.
Yeah, trust me, we've got loads of time. You strap yourself in. We've got loads of Mervyn Wallace to come. I've made a few purchases recently. I think so I got on DVD though. I got some digital copies of, and this is all above board, obviously from eBay.
Yeah.
Digital copies of Valiant.
Okay.
So you mentioned Valiant earlier, so all the copies of those, including the annuals. Wizard.
Oh wow.
Wizard was a DC Thompson, which there was an original Wizard, which was a picture story publication, which back in the 20s and 30s, one of the original ones. But then it stopped, and then they brought out a picture story one in 1970 to 1978. So that's a DC Thompson as well. So there's football stories in there. And in Hotspur, So I've got all the Victors or digital copies, and obviously Hotspur was the other major DC Thompson publication throughout the 60s and 70s, which eventually merged into Victor, like they all did in DC Thompson.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading something. I think Hotspur merged. I'm not sure if it was Crunch or Bullet or one of those first before it then went into Victor. But no, I think you're right. It was Victor. I think one of those maybe merged into Hotspur because you're right. It then was Victor and Hotspur, wasn't it?
Yeah, because Crunch was, I think it was DC Thompson's attempt to, it was their attempt at 2000 AD. I think that's what I've read when it came out in the 80s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Early 80s, can't remember.
Crunch. I don't think it was as late as that, actually. Sorry,
Okay.
guys, I'm trying to
No, it's fine.
find.
So maybe it's late 70s. Maybe it's because 2000 AD was it was 77, wasn't it? 78. So
Yeah.
it's probably around about then. And then it probably would have merged into Hotspur before they all merged into Victor. So yeah, so few copies, DVD copies to add to my collection, and also a couple of days ago I bought another Melchester Rovers football shirt.
Oh yes, yes.
This is the one from the reboot, which was similar to the classic 1973 design by Barry Tomlinson one, with like the shirt I'm wearing now. People on YouTube, this is the 70s one, but it was the reboot version of it. And I know you've got one, Tangent, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I purchased my one direct from Rebellion when they first released them, when they did the reboot. In fact, the one that I'm wearing is from the reboot story, and when they released this kit, they also released that one as well. So
classic one, yeah. So
classic
I've got that
1970 strip.
So I've got that to come. So I think I've got 6 tops now. So I still really want to get the one which Bygone's got, which is the early 70s, late 60s one. Top's still a version of that. Oh, sorry, the one which you got, Bygone. Do you remember that one? Don't you?
Yeah, I know. Hi, everyone. It's Bygone here. I'm not really here, but I am here. It's just, oh, yeah, I know. I remember. That's the top I've got. I know. Hiya.
It seemed like you were cleaning windows at the same time.
Same time, yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
There is just one step away, isn't there? From, hiya, I'm Bygone Berrigan, and I'm cleaning windows. By the way, just going back to like merging that you were talking about, sorry to interject, juxtaposition. Of course,
that's his new favourite word.
It is, isn't it? Of course, Victor incorporated Champ, and I'm not sure I've mentioned it, but I was in episode 30, issue 30. All right, never mind. Move on. Have I mentioned it?
Have you mentioned it?
They're my recent. No, yes, you have just now. They're my recent purchases. So yeah. Paul, what about yourself?
Well, so I mean, in the last sort of 6 months, I suppose, obviously Bygone came on and did a fantastic feature on Bullet. And obviously on that show, I was Googling whilst we were on the pod and looking at Bullet, and to find out that Twisty was in Bullet and then Kid Cox. And so thanks, Bygone, a comic that I'd never even heard of. I've now actually managed to purchase every one of those. So that's 147 editions of Bullet, and that ran from 14th of February 1976 to the 2nd of December 78. So I've got those, and in actual fact, probably can't quite see for those on YouTube, but they're the covers. Behind those are actually, then I was just searching on eBay. Is there a lion behind there? Yeah, exactly.
A Snow Queen. Okay.
A comic Crunch.
Right.
And I saw that there was a football story in Crunch, and I then managed Crunch. There's only 54 editions of, and I got very lucky as I started searching on eBay. I had missed somebody who had every one, but then can you believe, just as I was about to go to bed, I don't know if I got lucky, I did a search and someone was selling basically the entire collection of their Crunch comics. So I managed to purchase. I'm sorry, I'm not mentioning prices, but that's not me trying to be covering things up. I can't remember. I'd have to log on to eBay and look at my purchase history on that. But I got 54 editions. And as you were mentioning, so Crunch was from the 20th of January 79 to the 26th of January 1980.
Right.
So I managed to get them. And then you, Mute, very mischievous of you, mentioned that, seeing as you then bought Bullet and Crunch because they had football stories in, what about Valiant? And I was very much like, no, I'm not, no, this is getting out of hand. I'm not doing that. This is getting crazy. And then I went onto eBay and I saw a cover of Valiant, and it was in fact that story, Brady, is it? Oh, the story. I think that was one of the
first.
They couldn't
stories.
Break Brady.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic cover, and I've purchased a single edition of that for $3.99, and then I haven't even. Do you know what? That's been delivered to work, and I've been away for work, so I haven't actually been into the office for over a week. And then I noticed there was a guy selling complete years at a very good price, although the bidding, shall we say, moved the prices up.
That's what usually
And
happens.
yeah, that is generally that's what happens on auction sites. How other people are allowed to bid against me, I think, is outrageous. But I think I have managed to, on Valiant now, purchase about 154 editions of Valiant. So I've
Right.
managed to purchase the whole of 1966, about three quarters of 1970, three quarters of 65, about half the year of 64, and then some single editions of some other years. So I've managed to purchase 184 Valiants, which sounds great. The only problem is, and I need to look into this, if you do it by editions and weeks, Valiant ran from the 6th of October 1962
Yep.
to the 16th of October 1976. So that would be 732 editions. However, I've got my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping
They
that
went on
when I
strike
do
for 3
more
years.
yeah, they went on strike
That's
for
what we
3
know.
years, and there's only actually 200. But no, I think it actually comes down to 712 editions, so not that much. But that's my new thing. But I'm putting that on the back burner. And I on total now though, because I've been trying to, I now just need 13 editions of Action. Because I'd mentioned when I first came onto the pod, they were left to me by a fantastic gentleman that used to work, who sadly passed away, Dave Perrett,
That's right.
who, like a lot of people, when you talk to them, they're fans. And what he told me that he had the entire collection, but unfortunately he didn't. So I need 13 of those. The sad thing, it's not the sad thing, but the one I need actually is the last edition before the ban. And I was
Right.
Googling this, and I saw that went on sale a few years ago, and that went for over £1,000.
Would you mind just quickly mentioning for those that don't know why it was banned?
Gulp.
Sorry to interrupt.
Well, basically the adult content. I think a lot of it was a story called Kids Rule OK, if my memory serves me correctly,
It was.
and
Yeah.
the misbehaviour of the school children, and it got brought up into the Houses of Parliament. Obviously, some parent had obviously read it and got shocked by it, or an MP, and it was brought up in the Houses of Parliament, and yes, and it got banned for several weeks, and it came back. Sorry, Matt, we can't. For those of you, Matt's trying to share on
Trying to
the
show you.
screen,
Yeah, keep
but
going.
because of the background. But yeah, so that actually got banned, and as I remember speaking to Dave about this, and he sort of said that you've got these kids really misbehaving, and then like the when it finally came back, they're like, oh yes, Mr. Teacher, I'll do whatever you want, and they were all like butter wouldn't melt in their mouths again. There was also the story of the shark in Action as well. Can't believe I forgot Hookjaw, yeah, as well. So, but yeah, so I just need 13 of those now, but I'm not holding out much hope. Obviously, the one that I do need is that one before the ban, so they don't come up very often. And if it does, that, as I say, that's going to be a gulp moment, because that's going to be potentially big money. Just quickly, of the 1,657 editions of Victor, I now just need 96 of those. I've been trying to get those. Of the 1,574 editions of Tiger, again, I just need 99 of those, but I'm really struggling to get those last editions. Sort of looking on eBay, I need to start looking at other sources as well. So, but yeah, so not doing too badly. I've now got 5,762 comics in my collection.
Wow. Physical comics. That's amazing.
Physical comics.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, Andrew, because obviously we're a little bit more YouTube now as well, and don't worry if not. But are you able to maybe get one of your collections on the shelf and just show the watchers how you store?
Yeah, sure.
Or even viewers. The watchers.
The listeners who might view. Well, out of interest, what I'll do is I'll grab this. So as you can see, for those of you that are listening, they're Perspex boxes. These are actually made, and we have covered this, and I might put on the
Of
websites
course.
again.
Yeah.
They're actually normally used for people that store like model cars and sports memorabilia like caps and things. And you can get actually bases, and so these boxes would be upside down and go over, but I turn them and I don't buy the bases, and I put my comics in. And this one that I've got off the shelf, I've got all bullets in here, and he says, crikey, God, no, that all goes the way back
People
to
on the
bullet.
podcast, he's now going
through, and there behind them, because otherwise the shelves, there's also my Crunch comics behind the bullets.
Crunch.
So you don't bag and board then, like?
I don't. The main reason is Gull.
Because it's a faff to get them out, isn't it?
It's a faff to get them out, and secondly, like these bullets and Crunch, it still is my thing. I haven't actually read these. And of course, I want to kind of sit down and go through and read them. At the moment, you know, with time being the way it is, it's just fantastic to have them, and there's something for me to look forward to, and you know, and then go through. But you know, as Matt's mentioned, and I have started to myself kind of get more of the electrical I call them electrical,
Digital.
but the scans, the digitals, the digitized editions.
Gas powered.
Yeah, the electric edition of your comic is out now.
Sorry, listeners. They've only just got electricity where Paul is, so he's still quite excited about it.
Don't even have electricity in Exeter.
So, for me, and it's one of those things, and I think maybe as our generation, to be able to do this, and actually flick through. I do love the digitized, and when you're trying to just research stuff, I use that a lot. But when I actually want to read, and this is the one that I bought Crunch for, and here it is. There you go, the Kaiser experiment, and I've heard reviews of this, but this is a story that I really want to read and kind of do a review at some point on the pod. And it's definitely a futuristic type story. And as I say, it's about a doctor that's going to carry out some experiments to try and make this team unbeatable. So, yeah, whether it's Camford or not.
Sorry, forgive me.
Go for it.
What about poor quality ones? Do you purchase them and tend to replace them in the future when you can, or?
To be quite honest, Gull, at the moment it's all about, and I had this actually with Mute and Simo. They caught me out. Well, they didn't catch me out. In fact, I think it was Bygone before one of the pods. I pulled off one of my hair. This sounds a bit wrong. I took off the shelf the storage with Scorcher in it, and actually I noticed as I went through a couple of my Scorchers, like has happened in the past, there were some pages missing. So this is the problem. Initially it's all about, you know, just ticking off the list that I've got that copy, but as I say, I've then got 5,700 comics to sit through and actually make sure that all the pages are there. And that happened to me when in the Scorcher. I think I bought again like 3, 4, 5 years worth of Scorchers at the time. You know, you buy on eBay, and in all fairness to a lot of the sellers, the people have bought and they say they're in good condition and nothing, but they've also got massive collections and they've forgotten and they're selling them in good faith. But when you buy them to sit down and go through 300 comics and check that everything's in place is not the easiest thing to do. So unfortunately, it looks like a fantastic collection. Obviously, I personally think it is. But some of it is still to be verified. You know, there could be some missing pages here and there, unfortunately.
Please do supply a link, if you would, for that. You know, where you can get those type of storage containers if you have them, please.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. The one company that I've purchased them from, but hopefully it'll give people an idea. It was when I remember doing it, we did this in the pod before. It was a lot more expensive than I remembered. But of course, I actually, on that company's website, you can go in there and you can put in your own dimensions.
Yeah. And I know
so of course they are bespoke measurements for me.
Exactly.
And sorry, Gull, just to go on that is also one of the next things on my list. As you could see, again, sorry for some of the listeners, I'm pointing to my cases behind me, but at the moment I've got my Football Picture Story monthlies stacked and not showing the covers, so as you can see here. But of course I then want to get a different because obviously it's a different size perspex, and then hopefully start to get them on display as well. But I know we're for time, but I don't know if you got any more questions. I was just going to say, moving on. But my main reason for this is, like I've said, my bugbear was, and I think it goes for a lot of us. I mean, probably won't come as a surprise to anybody. I'm not married, so I don't live with the other half, so I can do this in my yeah, exactly, my thing. But my biggest bugbear was having my comics in archive boxes, not being able to see them, and then you put them on shelves, and of course, unlike books, a comic doesn't have a spine. So, you know, when you've got annuals, I mean, annuals are fine because you can see the spines and it says what they are. And so this was my way of like, hold on, I actually want to see them, you know. And so that's why I went down this route to actually try and display some of the covers.
It was episode 58 when we mentioned it.
Oh, well played, Mute-Button. Just to finish off with just what you said. Yeah, my old Marvel and Secret Wars and all of those collections, my American stuff, I did bag and board. It was quite expensive, and I put them in those proper long boxes, cardboard, boxes that you can get in comic shops, and they're great, sturdy, and you can get so many in just one of those. However, I want to see them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the difficulty. And you know what I would say to everybody, if you are a collector like this, bagging and boarding is the best way to store your comics, and that's one thing that I'm bad at. But absolutely. I do like to, because I do like to pull them off the shelf, and I get frustrated if I've got a one tag and whatever and pull it out.
Yeah,
but there you go.
Everyone's different. I'd be the same. I'm the same as you. My collection's in the garage, and it's similar how you've got it there, Paul, just because I know I want to get to them quick, but horses for courses, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Bagging and boarding, I know that you risk damage, like you said, but that's something to do when I'm a pensioner, really, because I need, I can't afford it now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, as you know, guys, this was, in all honesty, I mean, I had them on display, but you guys have really got me. And the idea really was to read all of these in my retirement. But I mean, I've still got something to look forward to. And now being introduced, thanks to you guys, and less money, new versions, new comics that I'd never even heard of with football stories. Right. Sorry, I shall go back to my hosting duties because we said about time, but I think actually we've taken quite a bit of time now. So I think it is time to hand over. Gull, I don't know if we got a famous person maybe to introduce the comic book life of Mervyn Wallace.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be Eamon Andrews, isn't it? Always, Yes, tonight you thought you were here to listen or watch a podcast about comics. I don't know why I'm sounding not very Irish, but tonight, this is your comic life. Who is it? Mute-Button, Matt.
Well, tonight you thought you were going to some random theatre show. Oh no, it's the comic life of Mervyn Wallace, Melchester Rovers star, Mervyn Wallace. So, can you see the screen there, guys?
Yep, brilliant.
Yeah. So for people, if you want to watch this on YouTube, I'm sharing the screen for the guys so they can we can take them through the story. So we start. It's quite a long one, so strap yourself in because it actually be interesting tangent as well because I'm a bit fluffy when it comes around to the end of what happened to him later on in his career after. But so you might know. I
can probably help on that. Yeah,
you could probably. But anyway, let's see. So anyway, how we introduce him. So it's the 7th of October, 1972. Roy Race this is in Tiger, obviously. Roy Race is the captain of Melchester Rovers. Tony Storm is the coach. He's taken over from Ben Galloway. Ben Galloway is obviously still there as general manager, and Terry West he's in a disagreement with Tony Storm. And he actually ends up going to Restoke. So anyway, they need to get new players in. Need to get a new player in because they just think that the young players aren't quite ready for it. So you hear what we have here is this is actually a cover. It's a fantastic drawing illustration by Yvonne Hutton, and it's Mervyn Wallace of Cranville, and they're saying he's got quite a reputation as a winger. And the other bubble saying, yes, right, yeah, he won an international cap a couple of seasons ago. Maybe he would fit in as a Rovers player. This is the first introduction to Mervyn Wallace. And so you've got Ben Galloway there saying, we're going to go to Cranville tomorrow evening and we'll watch Mervyn Wallace against Fordhampton. If he impresses us, we can sign him in time for our next league match. So let's see what happens.
No messing around there.
Straight away, yeah, they're interested. So they go and see him. You've got Roy there. He's taking Penny along because Penny was his girlfriend at the time. And she's saying, "Oh, I'm not impressed. It doesn't look much." Roy's like, "Well, what have his looks got to do with it? We're here to sign a footballer." That's right, Penny. And you've got Mervyn there. And he's kind of standing at the side of the pitch, and she's saying he hasn't done a thing yet. And yeah, it looks like we've had a wasted journey. But the game carries on, and then suddenly Wallace explodes into action. The ball's played over to him, and he's got a great turn of speed, and he scores. And they're like, "Wow, that's a splendidly contrived goal, cleverly set up, beautifully taken." And Roy's like, "Rovers couldn't ask for better than that." But then during the rest of the first half, Wallace is a spectator for the rest of the game, and he's just trotting leisurely up and down the line. And Roy's a bit baffled, so he seems a bit of a lazy player. But then suddenly, Cranville attack again down the left, and Wallace suddenly sprints into the middle, goes, "Oh, Fred to me," and Fred crosses the ball over, and bang, he knocks a header straight into the goal, and he's done it again, 2-0 to Cranville. So, whatever he's doing, it's working.
Sorry,
Okay.
Matt, and apologies to listeners, but hopefully I can describe this. We had this actually in the Marx Brothers, and I can't remember, one of the listeners put in our feedback, but it's another one of those crosses and headers where actually the cross is from behind where the person's heading it. It's fantastic work.
There's no way he would have known exactly where it was. Yeah, I know. Yeah. He's just looking at the goal, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Goal. Yeah. But you know what? All these years that I've probably seen that image drawn in a variety until I wish I could remember what listener pointed that out. And yeah, I'd never noticed before, but now it makes me smile every time I see it.
I can't remember. Was it Andy Donald or Thomas Hunter? Yeah. One of those, something like yeah. Anyway, so Penny's got her doubts, but he ends up he signs for Rovers for £250,000.
Wow.
But immediately, and we see on here, Merv immediately clashes with Tony Storm in training, because Merv is saying to Tony here, he said, "You see, my speciality is making sudden short runs at high speed. That's what I concentrate on." But Tony's having a go. So maybe that's how it was at Cranville, but now you're at Melchester, where I make the decisions about training. So already there's been a bit of a clash. Merv needs somewhere to stay, so he hasn't been able to sort out a house for him. So Ben says, "Well, couldn't Roy put you up for the time being, because he's got a nice big house, eh, Roy?" And Roy's like, "Yeah, sure. I'll phone my housekeeper, Mrs. Tanner, and tell her to get a guest room ready." So Merv's around Roy's house, and Penny's there, and Merv endears himself to Mrs. Tanner and Penny by he goes into the kitchen, and he goes, "Oh, some of this gear is really old-fashioned. Who chose it?" And Mrs. Tanner's like, "Well, I did." So yeah, brilliant. And she goes, "Roy gave me a free hand to plan my kitchen and equip it exactly how I liked." Merv's like, "Oops, guess I boobed. Sorry, Ma." And she's like, "How dare he call me Ma? If I was his mother, I'd box his ears." Go on.
Sorry to interrupt. What did he say? I'll do it. All right, Ma.
Sorry, Ma. Yeah. Oh my God, do you think Mervyn Wallace is Nick Cotton?
I say, what's that all about?
Explains a lot. And then so Mervyn, he's actually moaning about the whole. He goes, "The whole decor is pretty grotty. Who on earth advised you on this ghastly colour scheme?" And then Penny's like, "As a matter of fact, it was my idea." and he's like, "Oh shucks, I've done it again, haven't I?" So Mervyn Wallace is not endearing himself at all to anybody. So we move along. He makes his debut versus Kings Bay, interestingly.
Wow, yeah, interesting, yeah.
He kind of is wandering on the pitch, giving a bit of a wave, and he's going like, "Great to be here." But yeah, his lazy attitude is kind of causing arguments, and you got Jeff Giles there going, he's having a go at him, saying, "I'm not your servant," when Mervyn's had a go at Jeff. But Rovers press, and so they're moving down the left, And then suddenly from nowhere, Wallace just gets into the air and crashes the ball straight into the net. First time he touched the ball. And they're going, goal, a goal to Melchester. Good old Merv. He scored with his very first kick for Rovers. So even though he's not doing anything, you know, it looks like he's a fan favourite already. The game continues. Look at this fantastic piece of art by Ron. He gets another one as well with a fantastic right foot shot. And Merv's done it again, 2-0 to Rovers. So
Get in.
He's what they call, he's a fans player, isn't he? He's not a manager's player, because he does the spectacular, which catches the fans' eyes, but he's not doing all the stuff that managers like, all the off-ball work and everything. Yeah, exactly. And
then cheekily, so he's saying, he tells Tony Storm he needs to get the team to fit in with his style, but and then Penny's
see here a bit of a juxtaposition here. Thank you. All that hard work.
Yeah, just for that one line. Do you know what though? It was delivered like a podfather.
Thank you.
Oh, very good, very good.
Sorry.
But Tony's not having it. He's going, no, Mervyn, you've got to learn to work for your chances. And Mervyn's like, I don't waste my energy rushing about. I save it to get the ball into the net when the chance has been set up. That might have suited Cranville, but it won't suit Rovers. They're not getting on very well, Tony and Merv. Now we're moving on. Now it's Christmas 1972. There's a supporters club do, and Mervyn Wallace is invited to the supporters club do, but he doesn't turn up. He chooses to go on a TV show instead. So Roy ends up going to the supporters club do. Anyway, what happens is that the fans see him on this TV show, and well, they're obviously upset with that. And so what actually happens is he falls out of the fans, and the next game, the fans start booing him as he comes running onto the pitch. And they're going, what are you doing here, Wallace? Get back to television. You'll finish at Melchester. So meet from hero to zero. And just a few.
And the Rovers fans are not known for really getting on players' backs. They're normally the most supportive of fans.
Well, this is pre-Brinsden days as well. I think Brinsden was just a mere twinkle in
bygone's eyes.
Bygone's eyes. Yeah.
People going on TV shows. What's that all about?
Oh God, here we go. Yeah. So the fans have really turned against him. And actually, when he scores a goal, they barely cheer. But then Merv finds a house, and this is where perhaps his character starts to soften a bit. He finds a house, and he wants to buy it for his parents. So he actually asks Roy and Penny to drive him to picks up his parents in Cranville, and then they drive back, and he shows them the new house, and they're like, oh wow, it's amazing. And what a kitchen, his mum says, unlike the kitchen which Mrs. Tanner obviously chose for Roy.
Yeah.
And Merv's like, if you like it, Mum, it's yours. So he's shown a bit of a softening there. He's not all bad, is Merv, but that problem with the Christmas is it's still rumbling on, because what we have here is George Granger, the president of the supporters club, is saying that the supporters club want him out of the club. He's not having it. Merv hears about this and he goes, the supporters club doesn't pick the team. I'm at Melchester to stay, whether the supporters like it or not. But anyway, the next game, he plays poorly. Tony Storm keeps him on, but he gets fouled. And you can see him there. He's just being fouled there by players. And but the fans think he actually took a dive, and they're saying, oh, he's useless. He's lost the ball. In the end, he gets subbed off. Yeah, and Taffy sees, I've put Tubby, but it's Taffy. Taffy sees he was injured. So he was actually injured. But Rovers get knocked out. This is a cup game. And you see a soft side, because he goes up to one of the subs, Ainsworth, who I think he made a mistake, and he actually said, oh, don't worry about it. It wasn't your fault. So again, he's showing he's actually a bit of a human being. But the fans up their campaign to get him out of the club they now start sending letters to Ben Galloway to the papers. And you can see here, you've got a scene where you can see the articles in the newspaper. Roy's pointed at them, and Mervyn's seen them as well. And so it's building up. It's building up that the supporters now want Wallace out of the club. So much so, it's March 1973, and he's wrote a letter to Ben, and Mervyn's thinking, I'm going to leave Rovers. So he's kind of thought, you know what, it's in Rovers' best interest that I leave Melchester. Roy doesn't want him to do it, so I'm not letting you send that letter, Merv. But Roy, he goes, that'll do no good. I can easily write another, says Merv. But Roy says, you used to be the sort of chap who never allowed anyone to tell you what to do, but now you're giving in to the troublemakers in the supporters club. But now Rovers they're in the quarter-final of the European Cup, and they've got a second leg against Real Montana, and they're travelling to Spain. Yeah, and the fans are now fighting over him. So George Granger's on his side, like the chairman, but there's another guy there called, I think it's Joe Hinks, who really wants to kind of get Wallace out of the club. So anyway, they're in the dressing room before the game, and Ben Galloway's there saying, I expect Real to start off by coming at us hard. They'll try and get a quick goal and then defend it. Wallace is a sub. And you've got Joe Hinks there. He's given a bit of a sort of satisfaction. It looks like Galloway's got the message. Wallace isn't playing. He's happy because Wallace is a sub. But during the game, Ben decides to bring Merv on to unlock the defence. And Joe Hinks is furious. You can see Merv coming on. And Joe Hinks is going, if Rovers lose this game, it won't be just Mervyn Wallace we'll get rid of. We'll demand a sack for Galloway too. You can see him getting really irate there.
He's very angry, actually, Mr.
Yeah, he's very he's got some anger management
I have
issues,
to say,
I think.
I'm getting flashbacks from the Melchester directors when I did my Cup Winners' Cup run as well, when Roy played for England. Can't remember the name of the director now, but very similar.
Yeah, I know.
So it's quite interesting.
So anyway, the game continues, and actually Merv scores a brilliant third goal. So you can see it here.
What a cracker that is!
What a cracker! I know. It's Tubby Moulton. He kicks the ball out. It lands at Mervyn Wallace's feet. He runs down the wing, passes the ball over to Roy. Roy then gives it back to Merv, and then he just bends it in from the byline. Amazing.
Yeah. Goal of the season, that.
Yeah, but outside of the boot, curling it into the near post, beating it. Keeper didn't stand a chance, expecting the cross, couldn't get anywhere near that. What a goal! What a goal!
And
I tell you what, that's the goal of the podcast. I tell you, Dot, have we got a trophy for him?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't.
Good. And then that's it. And then at the end, you got Joe Hinks down there. He's giving him a great big hug.
Yeah.
So Joe Hinks, he wants him out of there. He goes, "You were great, Merv, just great." And Merv's like, "Yeah, thanks very much." So that was the 31st of March 1973. That's now. So he's won over the fans. So that was the introduction from October 72 to March 73. That was all Merv Wallace. So he's now a core member of the Rovers team. So we moved the story on. Now we move to 1976. So it's August 1976.
Yes.
This is the famous Gold Rush season, which I covered in episode 51, if people haven't listened to that one.
Yep.
This is when the supermarket chain Meadways, they put up £30,000 for the first player to score 50 League and Cup goals. I won't do the whole story because it's on episode 51, but suffice to say, Roy is up there challenging, and Mervyn is as well as there's some other players on this on the screen here.
I love seeing some of these.
Yeah, I know. You've got Bobby Miller, who was on 6 at the time. Stan Wills is on 4. Roy Race was on 8. Chris Blake was on 3. Cliff Robertson was on 5, and Ron Brown, who looks about 86, is on 4 goals at the time.
Do you know what I always love about these characters? We'd see them, but we'd probably never see them again.
No, I don't. None of them ring any bells, and this is the difference between obviously, We Are United and Rovers. No, Bobby Miller looks like Bobby Crush. It's one for the kids.
I was going to say.
So anyway. We move on. That's August 76. So we're now into March 77, and this is an FA Cup tie. And remember, it's League and Cup goals. Merv actually scores a hat trick. So this is a great piece of action here.
That is.
So brilliant save by Charlie Carter.
Yeah.
But then Merv gets a goal with a diving header.
Great header.
Then there's a pass by Roy, and it's a right foot shot straight into the goal. Then Roy gets another, and then Merv finishes off, and he gets a hat trick. Poor old Holverton, as the crowd says, they're getting a thrash in that was intended for Swinford. And there's Merv there in front of the crowd, his arms aloft, number 7, resplendent on his back, and they're cheering, Mervyn Wallace, Mervyn Wallace. And Roy's there going, I hope it doesn't get to his head like it did in the old days. Mervyn must have realised by now that he and I are almost neck and neck in the chase for a big slice of glory.
I tell you what, it's just as well old Bygone's not here, and he'd have a few words to say about that think bubble from Roy there. I have to admit, I know, and I am a big Roy fan, but at times the way they do portray Roy a little bit, he does seem to get a little bit jealous of his teammates. And it's funny, it's always done with as if, no, the player's going to get a little bit too big-headed himself. But is it really that the fact that you're not in the limelight, Roy?
No, yeah, but sorry, Tangential One, you've got it all wrong. Do you remember? Because Roy was going to give the money to charity, wasn't he? Do you remember?
Of course.
Yeah, because there was a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah.
He had to go on TV in the end. So he's just thinking about the charity, mate. Just charity, mate. That's what he's
There's a lot of work for charity, but doesn't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Not all right.
Oh, dear. Anyway, right.
Yes,
so
indeed.
we move forward to the 14th of May. The game, okay, so Roy scores a winner versus Wolford. There you go. Mentioned Wolford earlier, but this is Wolford.
Oh, I say.
Yeah, Wolford. So they just need 2 points now to win the championship. So as they go into the dressing room, everyone's jumping about. You've got Jimmy Slady's jumped on Lofty Peak's back, and they're going, "Yippee! 2 points from Tynecastle in the last game, and we're in the medals." It's a home game, as Blackie says. Too wouldn't it be great if we could clinch the championship in front of our own fans? And don't forget the goal rush, said Noel Baxter.
Yes.
And then of course you've got Roy and Mervyn there, and they're going, because they're just thinking that Roy's only got, because he only needs one more goal, but they seem to forget, strangely, that Mervyn's still got a chance of winning there as well.
Yeah.
So the following Saturday, the game kicks off, and everyone's just thinking, well, Roy just needs to get one to get his goal rush out of the way. But the game starts, and Merv scores 2 quick goals, then comes from towards the end,
Yes.
and Roy plays the ball to Merv, and there's a crowd. Come on, Roy, you're running out of time. Let's have that 50th goal. Great ball, Roy. Tynecastle keeper comes out. Merv lobs the keeper, and the crowd are going, he's drawn the defence and lobbed it over the keeper. Oh no. And there comes Roy. The whole goal is at his mercy. He's only one touch away from £30,000. And Roy dives and he nods it in, and it's there. Roy's done it. And Mervyn's like, running over it. Whoa, what a way to wrap up the season. We've clinched the championship. And Blackie's, Roy's won the goal rush as well, £30,000. And Roy's like, no, wait, hold on a minute. And then this is when he runs up the steps immediately after the game. I'm guessing the game's finished. Oh yeah, because the ref has blown for full time. Runs up the steps, arms aloft, and he tells the crowd that you're cheering the wrong man, because when you watch it back later, I think you'll see that the ball had already crossed the line. So Roy knew that the ball had already crossed the line, even though he's diving. He's got some sort of sixth sense, and he knew that later that night, everybody would see that actually the ball gone over the line. It was Mervyn's goal. Merv wins the goal rush.
But I can see how he could see that, because his head floats around the pitch, as you can see.
Yes, it's true. The all-seeing head.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So
that's brilliant.
Great story. And the story ends, and Penny has twins, but we won't cover that. But yeah, so Merv wins the goal rush. Now we'll move the story along. This is a cover story. The 30th of July 1977. The men of Melchester, and you've got Mervyn Wallace there, and he's signed Mervyn Wallace. I wonder if that was actually Mervyn, or maybe our friend Barry Tomlinson. Who knows? Yeah. And you've got Lofty Peak there. Lofty Peak. Yeah. Splendid in a nice tie. And then you've got Roy's England, 21st of January 1978, because of course he was picked. The iconic
for England,
picture. Yeah, he was picked for England. But yes.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sure we're going to come on to potential international controversy later on in the comic book life of Mervyn Wallace, right?
Well, yeah, we can cover it now because so apparently, because I haven't found this anywhere mentioned, but I do know he's mentioned they actually apparently had 27 caps for Wales, wasn't it, at some point?
Yeah. But have you not? Okay.
No, I haven't covered that.
Well,
No. So
right. Well, if you carry on, I
I'll
might be
carry
able
on.
to find that. Yep.
Okay, good stuff. Right, so we move over to 10th of March 1979. Paco Diaz is on the scene.
Oh, yes.
So Rovers are in the quarterfinal of the UEFA Cup, and Roy is getting pressured to buy a foreign player. Of course, anybody around at the time will remember Ardiles and Ricardo Villa joined in post the '78 World Cup. It was all about foreign players, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I do apologise because I was just recently reviewing the stories of Roy the Rovers, and I'm actually at this period, and I'm kind of documenting all the results and the team lineups. And in this story as well, just in the lead up to this, Roy is there's a Hungarian player, Kovacs, who's playing for Oldfield, and he seems to have really turned things around for Oldfield. So that's
right.
another reason why
just before
there's
this.
Roy. Yeah, Roy's kind of, maybe we need some foreign flair in the Rovers lineup.
So the story goes that the final whistle goes, and yeah, Rovers have got 2 more points, but they had to struggle. And the crowd says they should have murdered them, and they're having a go at the team as they go off. And Mervyn comes into the dressing room, throws his shirt off, and goes, "Oh, I wasn't the only one who blew it today. Maybe our fans will be satisfied until they see some foreign player wearing the number 7 shirt." So he's clearly it's building up to the fact that frustration. But Roy goes, and anyway, you can see for him, you can see him for yourself next Wednesday when we play Zaragoza of Spain in the quarterfinal UEFA Cup, because already somebody has been associated with Melchester. He's been in the press.
Yeah.
And we haven't met him yet, but in the next panel we'll meet him. So we say here, the Spaniards had to travel to Melchester for the first leg of the following Monday. And there he is, Paco Diaz, the greatest footballer Spain has ever produced. And you see him resplendent in his open neck shirt and Tom Selleck tash.
Yeah.
And they're going, Senor Diaz, just a minute, please. It said that you are looking for a new challenge in football and that you hope to find it in England. And so Paco Diaz goes, see, with the greatest club in the world, if Melchester Rovers want me, then I would be glad to come. And it's always the same family watching television. It's always the same bloke in the family.
Where's Bygone Berrigan?
Well, in all
Bygone, I know, I'm doing the best I can.
In all fairness, Gogglebox didn't have that many cameras back in those days, so they were only set up in one family's living room.
It's got a plant on top of the TV. He goes, if the Rovers have any doubts that I am worthy to play for them, I remove them on Wednesday by scoring the goals that knocked Melchester out of the UEFA Cup. So we'll see what happens. So there's some dressing room banter. Mervyn Wallace is again variated. He's so frustrated, and he's going, you all seem to forget that if Roy signs Diaz, one of us is going to get the chop. And not just one player, Senor Wallace, because then we have Noel Baxter goes, now that I, Noelissimo Baxterini, have signed for the Rovers, everyone get the chop. I run around so fast. I play in all the positions at once, sir. Noel Baxter's dressed up as some sort of Spanish waiter. I think it's, I don't know, maybe he thinks he's Manuel or something like that. Apparently
he's from Barcelona.
He's from Barcelona, even Morris had to laugh. So, are you fool, Noel? And they say, if all the foreign players are like him, you've got nothing to worry about. So anyway, the game kind of kicks off. They're warming up. Well, it hasn't kicked off yet, actually. You got the Zaragoza players warming up. But then Rovers are just about to come on the pitch, and the crowd are going, oh, here come the Rovers. Now, at least I think it's them, Suffering Stars.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's the Melchester Marvels, all right, but just look at them. Racy said he was going to surprise us this afternoon, but he wasn't joking, because this is the famous time when they walk out in an all-white strip.
Yeah.
So,
yes, apart from Red Sox. White shirts and shorts for Red Sox. Sorry for the listeners, But it was quite shocking in the day,
Yeah, I know. And the crowd even say, hey, Roy, if you play as good as you look, Zaragoza might well forget about the return game. Thanks, folks, says Roy, but it's only temporary until we find a sponsor to design a new strip. It was interesting when we asked Barry this. He couldn't quite remember exactly why they did that. Maybe they were kind of putting the feeders out, weren't they?
Out at the time, potentially, Interesting.
Another couple of years before Gola obviously joined. So anyway, the game starts. Mervyn is keen to kind of really take the the glory away from Paco Diaz. But a few minutes after kickoff, the Spaniards are looking for Diaz already and close him down, Duncan. But no, Diaz is straight past Duncan Mackay. And he's left him for dead, and he curls the ball. It's a save by Charlie Carter.
It's a great save again, though.
It's a great save, another save. But now we see, here we go. And the crowd are going, that's why he wants to come and play for Melchester. What makes you think you're worth it, lad? And so Paco Diaz is actually talking to the crowd. Goals, my friend. Already my goals removed some of the best teams in Europe from the UEFA Cup. And now I'm afraid it is Melchester's turn. And Mervyn's there like, why are you that cheeky? And then the corner comes over. And Diaz has gone down. And the referee thinks that Mervyn's fouled him. It's a free kick to Zaragoza just outside the box. And Merv's going, that wasn't a foul, Roy. He took a dive. Roy's like, it looks 50-50 to me, Merv. Now, for Pete's sake, calm down and get into the wall. And there's like 7 men in that wall as Diaz comes up to take the free kick. And he's going to take, and he strikes the ball, and it's come off of Mervyn, and it's gone straight into the goal. Deflection left. Charlie's stranded. It's 1-0 to Zaragoza.
Of all the players for it to deflect off as well, it's just. I tell you what, you couldn't write that, could you? Really, to be quite honest.
If I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it.
Exactly.
And so Paco's and his teammates going, good goal, Paco, and Paco's. That's only the beginning. Now I give Melchester 2 more reasons why they should buy Paco Diaz. So the game continues out. Merv's really getting stuck in. He dives in. He's fouled Diaz again. But the ball's glanced out to the Spanish left winger. The ref is waving play on. He's using the advantage rule. A first-time cross. And look at Diaz. He's recovered with incredible speed. Stop him, Roy. But Roy can't miss it. And Diaz is there. He's got a dive-in header. 2-0 to Zaragoza.
Great header. Great header.
And the score, so the Melchester fans are stunned at half time.
Stunned.
And they're talking, they're stunned. How's Dot? Is she all right?
Do you know what? I'm bloody loving this. Dorothy Cotton here. Do you know what? I'm stunned as well. And I don't know why. I'm suddenly Australian.
Dear. So the crowd are going, well, a lot of people wondered if Diaz was good enough for Melchester, and this is his answer. He vowed to prove his ability by knocking us out of the UEFA Cup. And Diaz looks like he's doing it unless Roy can sort him out. You've got some hard thinking to do, Racy, as they go into the dressing room. Anyway, they get into the dressing room, and Roy's like, get warmed up, Trevor. Trevor Cassidy's there. I'm bringing you on in place of Mervyn Wallace. Mervyn's like, what? No, wait a minute, Roy, you can't. And Roy points his finger at him, going, sorry, Merv. I'm doing what I think is best for the team. You're not in the right frame of mind for this game. Both of their goals result from your niggling feud with Diaz. In fact, I think we're all getting a Paco Diaz complex. From now on, we treat him like any other player. Whenever the ball goes to Diaz, I want the player who is nearest him to pick him up. Yeah. Diaz adds a third with a controversial penalty. It's 3-1 to Zaragoza. And as the crowd says, the away goals count double. Rovers are really up against it now.
Those were the days, weren't they? With the
I was just going to say, it's amazing, isn't it, how these changes. If you think it's only actually in about the last 3 seasons that they've done away with away goals, but it feels like a lifetime, right? When you read this, like, oh God, yeah, away goals counted double.
I know.
I mean, there's a rule change coming in football next season that I heard just yesterday when I was working. And sorry to go off on a tangent, but the 8-second rule for a goal.
I've heard this one. Yeah.
That's quite a surprise because
you know what, I really want to hear about that one because maybe we'll circle back to that through a future podcast.
Okay. Looking out for the section on the football rules, everybody.
You are the ref, Paul Trevelyan. You are the ref. End of the show.
Oh my God, what a show that was. Anyway, the game continues. Roy passes the ball out. And gets the ball back in. There's a nodded by Blackie, and Roy's he's got one back. He's got with a volley. So game ends 3-2. Paco Diaz, he's actually been lifted up by his teammates, and so he's giving it bigger. I mean, it's only the first leg, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
But
he doesn't suffer balls gladly, does he?
No, he needs a bit more confidence, doesn't he? The crowd says if he wanted to prove that he's good enough to play for Melchester, he couldn't have done it more spectacularly. And Paco says to Roy, they speak too soon, Roy? There's still the return game to come. When I finish the business, I'm knocking you out of the UEFA Cup. And Roy's like, cheeky perisher. I bet he's thinking cheeky perisher. He says, but the performance of Diaz must have impressed our directors. They'll be ready to pay the earth for him now. So anyway, Roy was right. You've got the directors there, and they're talking about this. They'll probably want close on £500,000 for Diaz, but the money is available, Roy. Just say the word. These are the directors talking to Roy. Now, hold on a minute, please, gentlemen. I had to pull off Mervyn Wallace because he's worried that he might lose his place in the squad. If a foreign player came to Melchester, perhaps some of the other players might feel the same way. So I've got to play this by ear. Mervyn is so angry, I wouldn't be surprised if he slapped in a transfer request. You'll soon find out, Roy. Here comes Mervyn now, looking as black as thunder. And he's making straight for Paco Diaz. It looks as if he's going to settle his feud with him right now with his fists. And you see Mervyn in a green suit, I might add.
You wonder. You love the old green suit.
It's a green suit. It's taken over the world. I never saw him in the 70s at all. Anyway, Mervyn goes straight up to Paco and he goes, "Hey, fancy pants, they reckon that if Roy wants to buy you, he will have to fork out £750,000. Well, in my opinion, this comes a lot closer to your price tag." And he stuck a price tag on him, a great big one, saying 75p on the offer. And Paco's looking at it going, huh? And Roy's like, oh no, if Diaz regards Mervyn's gesture as a personal insult, Roy's a bit worried. But Paco sees the funny side. Hey, Roy, if you want Paco to come to Melchester, you better make your bid now while I'm going cheap. So Paco's taking it in good spirit, really.
Yeah.
And Roy says, I don't know what to say. That might have developed into a nasty incident. And Paco says, don't worry, Roy. I know how Senor Wallace feels. And I also know that sometimes Paco has very big mouth. Yet Mervyn answered it with British humour instead of taking a punch at me. More than ever now, I would like to play for your great club. I mean, you have to question his morals.
Yeah.
They've only played the first leg.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I really want to play for your great club. So, yeah, not too sure about that. Roy has a bit of a quiet word with Mervyn, but
have a word with him.
Have a word. He says it's no use denying that if Diaz comes to Melchester, one of the regular strikers will have to stand aside to make room for him, and it's not going to be me. So anyway, Rovers fly off now to the second leg, and you've got newspaper headlines saying it's got to be Zaragoza. Spaniards undefeated at home in UEFA Cup games. Diaz wants to sew it up, so it's not looking good for Rovers. This
No.
So second leg starts. Diaz is immediately through on goal with a great mazy run. It's just brilliant David Skew artwork. I used to love him. He used to do the mazy runs in between the defenders. Yeah, he's left Slade and Mackay for dead, and he's going through on goal. And the crowd going, if he makes it 4-2 on aggregate, we've had it. Stop him, Charlie. Charlie comes running out, but Roy comes out of nowhere and he's kicked it off of Paco's toe. And it's going towards the goal. Oh my God, what's this going to be? Is it going to be an own goal or Roy Race? And the ball's skidding. It's going past it. But what's this? Charlie, he's up. He saved it. He's just saved it. Incredible.
It's a miraculous recovery from Carter there, though.
Brilliant
brilliant.
Speed.
Yeah.
Brilliant speed.
Yeah.
He's like a cat. It's like isn't
very
he?
cat-like.
He's
Very
cat-like, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they could have thought of a nickname for him. Really. Anyway, Charlie says, Roy, I know it's nice for a keeper to get a feel of the ball early on in the game, but that was ridiculous. And Roy says, sorry, Charlie.
Did Roy ever score an own goal?
I'm sure he must have done.
Oh, yeah, now you're asking. Yeah, that's a good question.
He's got to done.
Watch this space, yeah.
Oh, God, I'm going to have to. That's another section coming up.
Sorry.
Yeah, you probably. I've got to read every single story again. Anyway, so Rovers get going. They score an equaliser. It's actually Lofty Peak with a great right foot shot over the keeper. Yeah, so it's 3-3 now on aggregate. And the Spanish fans are cheering. You can tell the Spanish fans because they've got Leary shirts on, and they've all got moustaches. And the ball's out to Diaz. Diaz, yeah. It's not Diaz, it's Diaz, not Mackay. Okay. He's switched to the left and he's found some space. But Roy's slid in and he's tackled him. So race again, as the crowd says, he's robbed Diaz. And then he hits Diaz has another shot and he hits it straight at the keeper and he throws the ball out to Charlie. No, Charlie throws the ball out to Roy and Roy's got the ball, but Diaz has slid in. And it's almost as if they're marking each other out of the game now.
Yeah.
Roy and Paco. And the teammates are saying to him, hey, what are you trying to do, Paco? Play in all the positions? Your job is to score goals. C, leave the race to Juarez. That is how we planned it. And yeah, even the Melchester players are saying, I'm not surprised they're confused. Roy and Diaz seem to be marking each other out of the game. Race is even taking the throw-ins. What the heck is going on? Anyway, the game continues. Diaz makes another tackle on Roy. It's gone straight to Jimmy Slade, this one. So Jimmy gets it. He hits it first time, low and hard, aiming for the far post. Where are you, Blackie Gray? He says. Right here, Jimmy. Bang. Goal. Blackie is in with a great diving
It's
header.
another fantastic diving header. I tell you what, I mean, that's for those of going back, those of people remember the 1987, I think it was 87 Coventry City Tottenham FA Cup final, Keith Houchin. I think we've had about 4 Keith Houchin spectacular diving headers in this feature so far. And there's another one. Brilliant finish from Blackie Gray.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Keith Houchin, of course, friend of the show, David Skew, did those stamps, didn't he? And one of the
yes. And one of them was
goals,
Keith Houchin's
Houchin's diving header.
Yes, yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. And moments later, so that's it. The full-time whistle goes and Rovers are through 4-3. Semi-finals, here we come. The crowd shout, yippee, cop that, Varagos. Cop that, Varagos. We're going to win the cup. And yeah, so the Spanish players couldn't believe that they had been knocked out, and they go, as Roy shakes Paco's hand, look at Roy shaking hands with Diaz. Maybe he's thanking our superstar for not scoring any goals. And but he scored a goal and a hat-trick in the first leg. Rovers are also mystified by Paco Diaz's goalless performance. And you've got Vernon Elliott there saying, Roy didn't exactly trouble their keeper. He and Diaz sort of played each other out of the game, which ought to please Merv, eh? And Merv's like, you bet, Noel. I never fancied the idea of a foreign player coming to Melchester, especially Diaz, especially after a rubbishy display like that. Old Roy wouldn't give 2 pence for him. So Merv thinks, our position's safe. Next panel, Melchester to pay 700,000 for Diaz. So Paco Diaz then joins Melchester. Yeah. So Rovers then went on to beat Sorbonne in the semi-final to set up a final with Rasberg.
Yeah.
And Roy takes Paco with the squad, and his presence angers Merv. So the story continues. The Rovers are 1-0 down to Rasberg, and Merv comes on as sub in the first leg of the final, because remember, the UEFA Cup was 2 legs.
That was 2 legs, yep.
It's cool. So Merv comes on, and Roy says, your usual role, Mervyn, attack them up the left flank. Okay, you don't have to tell me. So Mervyn's wound up again. And the crowd are saying, look at him hanging about on the left wing. Yeah, that's where he'll stay for the rest of the game, if you ask me, sulking. So it's very much similar to when he first joined, really, from Cranville. Yeah. And then suddenly, he bursts in and he intercepts the ball. And he goes, Wallace took it off the Germans just as they were thinking of setting up an attack. And then Mervyn thinking, if you want my place, Diaz, you're going to have to fight for it. And he has a blast at goal, and it's a dipping snapshot, almost brings the equaliser, comes off the bar. It's whack it in, Vernon. But no, Rasberger there, and they clear it just the way in time. It's the nearest we've come to scoring. Paco Diaz is off the bench because he's watching the game going, we will get even closer if you keep giving it to Mervyn. He's the match winner, I tell you. You've got Ben Galloway there going, good grief, listen to Diaz. What's old Mervyn going to make of that? So he's in midfield now. Roy's got the ball. He's getting possession of the ball from the throw-in. And he's thinking, if I know Mervyn, he'll assume that Diaz is taking the mickey out of him, and it'll make him even angrier. So he passes it to Mervyn. And again, he slaloms in between 2 players. He's got my ball. And the crowd's going, this is the old Mervyn Wallace, using his speed and skill to take on the German defence. And he gets into the penalty area. The Germans are panicked, and they've hacked him down in the area. Penalty. And so he's down on the ground, Mervyn, and Roy's there saying, well, don't just sit there, Merv. Get up and take it. And Blackie's there going, I don't believe it. And they're like, this is the chance to score a goal that could bring us the UEFA Cup. And Roy's put it in the hands of a player who may be on his way out of the squad. Is Mervyn Wallace really in the right frame of mind to take this spot kick? We'll find out.
Wow, yes.
So this is the front cover next week. And you've got him running up to the ball. You've got the Rasberg keeper there. And the crowd saying, Roy's thrown away a great chance to equalise. Mervyn Wallace is so angry at the way he's been treated. I'll bet he couldn't care less if he scores or misses. But he takes it and he puts the keeper the wrong way, and it's there, 1 each. Hooray! Old Merv smashing it in as if he'd been taking penalties all his life. Yeah, I think he must have given him the eyes.
Absolutely fantastic.
But Merv's in no Wallace. Merv's in no Wallace. He's in no mood.
Yeah.
Mervyn is in no mood to be congratulated. What about that then, Race? Reckon we've got time for another one before we go home? That's up to you, Mervyn. Oh dear. Race has fed it to Mervyn again. Now watch him run straight to the defence as if he wants to take on the whole German team. This time, no. He lobs the ball over. Where are you, boss man? It's a first time cross. Aim for Roy. And he's just lobbed the keeper with a volley. Oh, what a goal by Roy Race. And it's now Rasberg 1, Melchester Rovers 2.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, though, but if you look at that cross, I mean, that takes out 3 Rasberg defenders there. What a ball that is. Curls it right over them. Fantastic skills from Wallace.
Definitely onside as well, you can see, because you've got that player
he's
there
running it. Exactly. Yeah.
No
VAR. Not that there was VAR back in those days, thankfully.
Do you know what, Tangent? You've never sounded more punditish than then. Well, he took out 3. That was brilliant.
So that was the final score of the vital first leg at full time. That should set us up nicely for the return game, Roy, Blackie says. And all because you took a gamble on Moody Merv. It's like, it was a gamble, right, Blackie? One of the biggest I've ever taken. The fact is, I encouraged old Paco to take the mickey out of Mervyn. I had hoped they would make Mervyn so white hot with rage he'd forget his sulks and grab the chance to show that he's as good as any foreign player, and it worked. So you got him in the dressing room now. Mervyn couldn't believe his ears. So the whole thing was just a spoof to make me turn it on. You were actually helping me, Diaz. Paco's there. You and the whole team, my friend. This is what being part of a squad is all about. See? I take my turn along with everybody else, which is why I cheer like blazes when Rovers win the UEFA Cup. Any team that go to Melchester or go down can say adios before they set out. And then, characteristically, we see in the next 2 panels, we just see the second leg play out. Because a few days later, the deadliest left foot in football makes Rasberg's task impossible. Race's rocket makes it 3-1 in aggregate, and there's only 10 minutes left. And then the last panel, interestingly, it's raining. You don't often see rain in a Royal race, sorry. But as I say there, you got the Rovers then running around the pitch with the UEFA Cup, and it finishes with Blackie saying to Roy, "You lucky devil, Roy. I wish we were coming to Bazran with you for the summer."
Yeah,
that was it.
I've got to say,
the UEFA Cup.
I'm flabbergasted by that, like you saying that there's just the one panel for the second leg, literally. But I love that panel of them lifting the cup, and that really is of a bygone, sorry to use Neil's nickname, age there. Because what I love about that, you see 3 of the Melchester players actually in a Rasberg top where they've swapped shirts. And of course, you don't really see that these days anymore.
I love that
because
too.
all the pictures, and UEFA, like John Terry, who I'm not a massive fan of, but it got a lot of stick years ago, remember, for coming onto the pitch in his Chelsea top. But in actual fact, it then came out that that's insisted by, but it was insisted by UEFA. If he wanted to be in the pictures, UEFA said you had to be in kit. And modern day football really has lost the plot for me. But anyway, sorry, a little tangent from me.
You're right. That is a throwback to wearing the other Kings.
Yeah,
as they won the FA Cup, they run around the pitch. And,
exactly. Yeah, because in the cup finals, the players they would swap shirts in these big occasions, and you'd often see pictures of the winning team and players wearing the opposition kit.
It's nice about the UEFA Cup as well, because you can win a European trophy on your own ground, can't you?
Yeah,
the second leg was at home.
That's right.
Which
exactly.
should never happen now. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, because be here all week. There's a couple of other covers, and this is actually with the Gola kit. So you got Mervyn running out on the 5th of September 1981. And then you've got 20th of February 1982. You've got Mervyn there in the Gola kit.
And that's the big, which you covered the last pod or the pod before, when Roy had been shot, right? That's the record-breaking match against Keysborough.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. Because it says there, I wonder if Roy is listening to this.
Yeah.
Then we move to June 1982, the famous cricket match.
Yeah. Ralph Meeker.
Ralph Meeker. Because, as you see here, you've got Mervyn. He's actually batting with Blackie. and he gets Ralph Mikov gets a bouncer right on his arm, and he actually breaks his arm. So he was injured, and then next we see Mervyn in the next frame, and he's running around the pitch, and they're saying he can handle light training, but heavy tackles are definitely out, and so is Mervyn. Because so he's now had a couple of injuries, but now we move on. So we jump a few years, and the next major storyline involving Merv is the European Super Cup, which obviously was just after they won the
beat Real Santana in the Cup Winners' Cup, the one that I featured. Yeah,
the famous the 4 episodes of yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So what we have here, we've got Merv. He actually comes. I think he comes on. As a sub.
Yeah.
So teams come out again. Always use both subs. So Mervyn Wallace comes on, and Trevor Cassidy replace Butler. So that's Mark Butler, and Rob Richards, and the crowd are going, "What a gamble! Let's hope it works." So the Germans they mount an attack, and Trevor's a bit on the slow side these days, as he's got to rely a bit more on his positional sense and calmness under pressure. But he nods the ball back. So Trevor's obviously doing quite well because he's nodded it back to Andy Styles. So Andy Styles' clearance now, he's found Roy, and now he's over to Mervyn Wallace. Mervyn Wallace is away. Great ball, Racy. He's holding the ball now, Merv, and he's calming it down, waiting for the others to get into space. But then suddenly a burst of speed, and he bursts past the German players, and it's like, oh, Mervyn's changed pace, just like he did in the old days. He's tremendous speed off the mark, has taken out 2 defenders. And before the Dresden defenders could recover, Roy plays it back to Merv, and he lobs the keeper, and it goes in. It's there, 2 each. But the keeper's collided with Merv, and he's hit him on the leg, on his right knee. And he's like, oh, no. The old injury, I felt it go again. And
could be career ending.
Could be. Who knows? Taffy's there. Mind your back, lads. Let's take a look at him. And the crowd are going, Mervyn's going off now. Rovers are really in trouble. We've used all our subs. We're down to 10 men. And Wallace is still in agony. That injury looks horrifying. What's happened to Merv? So we move on. Ah, dear, this is quite sad. And I think there's some football trouble there. But anyway, the players' thoughts turn to Mervyn Wallace, one of the injured Melchester players. Black is there. I wonder how he is. And I haven't seen Taffy Morgan since they stretched Mervyn off, so I reckon it's a bad one. And you're in the treatment room there, whereas his thought bubble says it's bad, all right, by the expression on Mervyn's face. And suddenly there's a doctor there. You can tell he's a doctor because he's got glasses on, moustache, and he's got a white coat. They all look like that. And the doctor and the doctor says to Roy, "He'll still be mobile, Roy, but Mervyn didn't risk another injury to that knee. I've had to tell him that his playing days are over." And Roy is there, puts his hand on Mervyn's right shoulder, says, "Mervyn, I know there isn't much I can say to cheer you up at the moment, but there'll always be a place for you at this club. Training, coaching. Aye, lad, especially now," says Taffy. As Roy knows, lads, by the time the new season starts, you'll be needing a new trainer. And Taffy retiring? I don't believe it. So Taffy's retiring. Mervyn's been pensioned off. And Roy says, "It's true, I'm afraid, but we're going to give Taffy and Mervyn a fantastic send-off, the most spectacular benefit match ever staged at Mel Park."
Yes.
So we move on, and now we have the Rovers return. So sorry, no EastEnders.
Yeah.
Coronation Street. The Rovers return. July 1985. He plays in his own testimonial. So you've got a great team line up there. You've got in the back, left to right. You've got Ken Cooper, Toby Morton, Terry West, Jeff Giles, Andy Croydon, Paco Diaz is back.
Yeah.
Tom Dawson, and then bottom you've got Derek Miller, Mervyn Wallace, Lofty Peak, Taffy Morgan. By this time must be about 80. But he's still playing football. and Jumbo Trudgeon.
Well, in all fairness, you say that, but he's still 5 years younger than Roy.
And Grandad Gosden. Yeah. And so that's the famous time where obviously and then after that it was the Spandau days.
Spandau Valley time. Exactly.
Yeah. We won't mention that. Maybe we'll do that another show.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we're getting towards the end of it now. So obviously Merv stopped playing. I've got a few pictures here on the slides on YouTube if you want to see them. You've got a few occasions. You've got Merv there in February '86, talking to Roy. Then you've actually got Russell Wallace.
Yeah. Yes, young
Russell
Russell.
Wallace. Yeah.
Yep.
Did he actually play for Rovers then?
Yep.
I think he played in an FA Cup match at the
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Timecaster. This is '91.
No memory of him.
No, I do. Yeah. Young Russell.
So Merv was the coach. So another picture there of Merv. This is Barry Mitchell artwork, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Is it Mike White? It's Mike White. Was it Barry Mitchell?
It's Mike White. I think it's Mike White. Apology. This is Mike White still at this time. I'm not...
Yeah. Anyway, and there's a few more clips in there. Pictures of him as a coach. They've got Carl Bruckner there. So he's getting into latter days.
Oh, yeah. He's a bit of a unit there, wasn't he?
He was.
Oh, Bruckner. Yeah.
Like
the Dynamo of Bresden. The Dynamo of Bresden. Didn't get that nickname for nothing.
March 1992, we've got a clip here, and Merv's there, and he's talking about a player and his deadly finish. Who's that? I don't know who that is. Is that he's talking to Roy as the coach?
I think that might be
Matthew Croker, isn't it? Matthew Croker.
Yeah, Matt Croker. Yeah.
Matt Croker. Yeah. Steve's the son of the son of Chippy Croker.
Chippy Croker, yeah, that was another one of those, the Gold Rush.
Like Jimmy Greaves, wasn't it? It's like Jimmy
That's
Greaves'
right,
character, wasn't it?
It's a funny old game, innit?
That was it.
I was going to say Chippy Minton then, but that's a completely different thing.
Chippy Minton, blimey, don't start me on that. Brilliant. Yeah. So Matt Croker. So you got Merv there, and he's kind of talking Roy around to playing him. So this is like we're now getting to latter days. So you've got October 1992. Roy Race has actually resigned.
Yep.
Mervyn Wallace has taken over as caretaker manager. He's the assistance of Danny Trent. So he's talking to the chairman there. So he's.
Where's Blackie Gray at that point?
Yeah, it was interesting that those, but Blackie was still there as a player, and but Mervyn as the first team coach actually took charge in this period of time. Led to another story where, amazingly, I don't know if you're going to cover this, the manager Roy eventually gets, because Mervyn proves to be a bit indecisive in some of his decisions, and the Melbourne manager takes charge. Ralph Gordon, I think it is. Yeah, Ralph Gordon.
Gordon's alive!
So we actually, now we move on to March 1993. So obviously, all fans know.
I say. There's a little bit of flesh there, isn't there, lad?
Yeah.
Oh, say, Dorothy Gordon.
So this is actually the last ever weekly, and you've actually got Merv there saying, Charlie Madden wants a word with you, Roy. This is in the dressing room. And Roy goes, Chief Scout, must be important, Merv. Darren Lewis, eh? He plays for World Tech Sports in the Bexley Holmes League. He's the best prospect I've ever seen. We have to get the lad on the Rovers books. And of course, that was the ill-fated helicopter journey. They're off to go and see that player. And then we see, Roy there in the helicopter crash. So that was the end of the weeklies. And so we've got Merv there as the coach, first team coach. We then move on to the monthlies.
Yep.
And he was still there as a coach, wasn't he, Paul?
He's and then it's funny because Gull mentioned it, and then at this point, because Roy's in hospital, and actually then Blackie Gray again. Mervyn is given the job, we're informed, but he doesn't do such a great job, and then Blackie steps in and he manages to turn it around for a period. But then Blackie Gray's manager, but then again things aren't going so well for Blackie either. And so I think now, as you say, then Mervyn's asked to take caretaker charge. Blackie gets sacked, I believe.
All right, and that's it, and that's kind of where I've ended anyway. Because I don't think, am I right in thinking the match of the day he didn't appear in the match of the day?
No, he does. So where you've left it gets really, really interesting, because in this period of the story, again, like we've said, some of the it's like the continuity is missing in that it's obviously a new team taking charge of the Royal Rovers, and the characters really change. And now Mervyn is this real hard sort of nosed manager, and he's
Right.
put in charge. And Duncan Mackay becomes Mervyn's number two. And in actual fact, Blackie's already signed Paul Delroy and Ntendi from Brixton, one of the rebooted teams. Brixton, one of the rebooted teams. And then they actually signed the Brazilian midfielder forward, Melandro. And Rovers are in actual fact doing really well under the guidance of Mervyn, and Duncan's struck a brilliant relationship with the Brazilian forward, who is kind of known as one of the stars, greatest football stars in the world at that time. But then it's revealed that Rovers off-field businesses, they'd diversified the business empire, and they'd bought sports shops and other things and casinos and what have you, and this has all gone wrong, and the club is actually going bankrupt. And then it gets really weird, because in the Roy of the Rovers monthly, you get a page where it tells us that in actual fact Roy Race comes back, and he's going to turn the club into like a Barcelona type club where members owned and shares and everything. But in Shoot magazine, where the story would appear in Roy the Rovers monthly, and in between the monthlies it would have 2 pages in Shoot magazine each week. But in Shoot, we got that edition of Shoot, and we're informed that due to the issues, Melchester Rovers, that both Roy's son, Rocky Race, and Paul Delroy and Ntende have been sold to, I believe it's AC Monza in Italy. And that's it. We don't see the story. And then the story re-emerges in Match of the Day. Rovers are relegated, so they're in the first division, because obviously we've got the Premier League at this point. Roy is sort of suffering from depression. We've got the bad news that Penny has died. And Melandro, we're informed in the first panel that Melandro's left the club. Paul Delroy and Ntendi's left the club as well. Rocky, again, it's a bit weird, but Rocky's actually at Melbourne, not in Italy. And Mervyn's not doing very, very well with the team. And in the end, it's decided that the Rovers, they really need to get promotion. Well, in fact, I think they're struggling to even survive in the first division. They're in trouble of being relegated. And Mervyn is sacked, and Roy takes charge of the team. And Roy then brings Jeff Giles back as his number 2. And that, as far as my memory goes, is the last we see of Mervyn Wallace. But it's really interesting. In that time frame, he becomes caretaker manager. He's shown as being really indecisive and not great. But then in the monthlies, he's shown as this really decisive and strong manager and looks like a great manager. And then we go to the Match of the Day magazine, and once again, he looks like he's not really up to the job.
So, stories going all over the place as per.
Yeah, and I think, like we said, I think this is the problem when we talk about the continuity. I mean, I found it funny again in the last pod when Ian was saying about it. Of course, these stories are written, and they're not to be sort of reviewed 20 years later like we do, or sometimes even longer than that. And these new people come in and pick the story up, and I don't think they've necessarily always looked at the backstory. So. But just on that, a couple of things.
Yeah, thanks for adding that additional stuff. Yeah, no, cheers.
Yeah,
man. Appreciate that. Go on. Where have you gone? Oh, right, okay. You're mute. I'll put you on mute.
Living up to your nickname.
A dream to come true. Paul's headphones have stopped working. This is.
Hopefully, some emergency
that's
headset. My battery ran out. Apologies. It had been warning me. I didn't get enough time.
Your battery or the headphones?
Well, my battery's been worn out for years. But just a couple of things on that Mervyn Wallace thing. Just for my own thing, I looked at. It's interesting how funny again, like we say, because we now are looking back and reading the stories, but that business with Mervyn Wallace and the Hinks, the supporters club, very similar to the storyline. And I found it as the board member Ted Garner, when Roy
Okay.
played for England. And of course, I had forgotten that you mentioned there that sort of Mervyn. Well, he's not actually replaced by Paco Diaz in the team, because the next season Mervyn actually moves into midfield, and Paco's out on the wing. But that I did that review of the Cup Winners' Cup final, and I was just checking the team lineup actually for the final, and of
Yeah.
course I've forgotten what happened to Paco Diaz, but Diaz is not even in the squad, and Mervyn Wallace is actually on the bench for that Cup Winners' Cup final. So that's interesting. And one of
Paco
the other
Diaz
things,
left. He left in
yeah,
I can't,
I
was it
can't remember either.
was it 80?
Yeah, I can't remember either. So
Yeah.
yeah. And a couple of things that always intrigues me is Mervyn came from Camford, yeah. And when my
Cranville.
Cranville, sorry, my years of reading the story, I don't remember that team name at all.
No.
In the late 70s until through the 80s. And then also on your first panel, it mentions about Terry West.
Yes.
Now, I have mentioned this, and I can't share my screen, and I'm sorry to the listeners of the pod, but I've got a team photograph of Burnside Athletic, which was when Hardman, Johnny Dexter, the Hardman, left Danefield United, and then he started in a new story called Dexter's Dozen, and he joins Burnside Athletic. Can you believe this England international who's playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world? He's on the transfer list, but the only team that shows any interest is this team that's bottom of the fourth division. But Terry West is actually a player at Burnside Athletic. And if you look at the
Ah,
names, yeah, he's there. So I've
Wow.
always found that really interesting. And it does actually mention it in the story that it is Terry West, the former Melchester player. So, I've always enjoyed that. And I don't know, Matt, if I can share my screen for the YouTube
yeah, I'll do it.
um,
Hold on a second.
viewers. Yeah, send the requests and the listeners.
Oh,
So in 1987,
yeah,
the I don't know if you're seeing that or not.
yeah. No, not yet. Go on.
Yeah, here we go.
Try it now.
Hopefully get the right screen. You seeing that? It should say Mervyn Wallace, first team Rovers
Yeah.
first team coach.
Ah, there you
So
go.
in 1987, they did player profiles. And obviously, Mervyn's already first team coach. But if I zoom in, can you see here international honours,
Yes.
27 caps for Wales?
Wow.
So
That was
again,
that was where we saw it. Yeah.
yeah,
Mervyn Arfon Wallace.
yeah, exactly. But what's also interesting, because I remembered this because as Ian quite rightly showed, in 1987 as well, they did a profile of Roy and previous clubs, none apart from a set Jack Nicklaus gave me for Christmas, which
Yeah.
I found really annoying at the time because, of course, no mention of him moving to Walford Rovers. And that answer, in actual fact, is the same answer that's given in a profile of Roy in something like the 1982 annual. So again, some real continuity issues there, unfortunately,
Yeah, that would
for us
yeah,
to,
that's the first time I've seen that. That's
yeah, yeah,
that's a bit
yeah.
more yeah.
So that's where I think, as we say, the confusion has come in at times with the Mervyn Wallace, and it's from that 1987, and I can't remember if around about that time if it mentions Wales or not. But as we know, obviously he played for England in Roy's team.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so just to clear up those couple of things there.
Good.
Wow.
That's the comic life of Mervyn Wallace. So it was a
Yes.
long
Brilliant.
one. So apologies. But
But what a
yeah,
career, and I mean, all fairness,
what
and
a
a
career.
central character over the years. And I mean, I hate to bring it up, but obviously surviving the Bazran incident, his whole career surviving through that, and like we said, one of the few players from that era that went all the way through, in actual fact, to the match of the day magazine,
so
right
it's
up
only
to the
Roy
last
Blackie,
incarnation. Yeah,
Roy Blackie and Mervyn, or
that's right.
maybe Duncan.
Duncan, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I must admit, I don't remember any mention of Duncan. Well, Duncan, funnily enough, I believe comes back in the last match at Melchester, Mel Park, and there's a few of the ex-players, and they come on the field and wave at the
Right.
crowd, and I believe Duncan's one of those. But it's interesting, like you say, in the monthly comic, Duncan is Mervyn's number 2, and there's no mention of that when it gets to the match of the day. Match of the day, yes. So
I must say to the listeners, I know it's been a long, long episode, but you know what? That was absolutely fascinating. That was absolutely brilliant, Matt. Fantastic.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
yeah,
Did Dot enjoy it? Is she all right, or she's still asleep?
she's
Dot, are you all right? Hang on a second. Hang on. Oh, sorry. I was asleep. Sorry.
Right, with that, I think Dot is letting us know it's obviously at that point where it's time to say goodbye. But before we do, as you know, we like to give out all the places where you can get in touch with us and see fantastic input from, well, all the fans. So I'm going to give out the Facebook sites where a lot of the stuff is covered. So, of course, you've got the Champ We Are United and Football Picture Story Monthly Fans group. Then you've got the wonderful Roy the Rovers comic 40 years on, in brackets Melchester Rovers, which of course is founded by friend of the show, Ed Taylor, and he runs that. And then, of course, there's the Striker World Facebook group, so all things Nick Jarvis, Warbury Warriors, and Thamesford. And then, of course, we
And
also
Oakvale,
yes,
episode 1.
for that one Oakvale fan. And then we also share our stuff on the mighty world of British comics, which of course is a fantastic page for all comics, not just football-based comics. So I highly recommend that for all your UK comic based themes, basically. Gull, do you want to mention how our wonderful pod started and the forum pro boards?
Of course, yeah. Our forum, which is how this podcast developed from champweunited.proboards.com, as we always say. I'll keep it brief. 55,000 plus posts, great research. It's an archive site now, really. We don't interact on there because it's all on the Facebook groups. But if you want to join, there is so much information on there. It is incredible. So, yeah, champweunited.proboards.com.
Brilliant. And Matt, as you know, always coming to you for the wonderful world that is, whether it's a Blue Sky, X, or Twitter, I don't know. So I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, so Blue Sky, we are at champcomics.bsky.social, and X we are at champ_r at champ_RARE, and of course we're on YouTube as well.
Yes.
So if you want to follow the stories as we are retelling them, you can find us at Champ We Are United. So yeah, and like and subscribe when you see us on YouTube. That'd be great. Thanks.
Fantastic. Right. Well, I've enjoyed it, but Gull, last thoughts, and do you want to say your farewells? Yourself and Dot, of course.
Yeah, it's been a great episode. Really enjoyed it. I know it's a few of us instead of a full house, but you know what? Frank Carson would say, it's a cracker. Oh, I'll say, Dorothy Gordon here. Thank you for letting me come in the studio. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And I'll go back to the green room for next episode. Bye.
Thank you, Gull, the Podfather. And over to you, Moot. Oh, God, I cannot say that. I've got to change your nickname when I'm hosting.
Just say
seriously.
Golden Boy. I'm now Golden Boy.
Golden Boy. Golden Boy Matt. Over to Golden Boy Matt.
No, thanks a lot, old Tangential One. No, yeah, really enjoyed it. Good to kind of get that Mervyn Wallace one finally out of the way. It's been there for ages. But yeah, good, interesting hearing about all the collection stuff which you've got, and that Football Commando. I definitely want to get hold of that goal which you've got as well. So yeah, great show. Looking forward to the next one.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I would. If you're wanting to buy it, the new ones might be out soon. So sooner rather than later, it might still be in the likes of WH Smith's or online or whatever.
Fantastic. Right. Yes. Brilliant stuff. We might have only been a half squad with the other half of the team on the sidelines, due back in 105. But what a fantastic pod this was. 104 done. See you in 105. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
All right,
can't
lads.
just end it anymore, can we?
All right, lads.